Okay, it's time to get cracking on this character, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to head to the crypt. Now, as I mentioned before, we wanted to save the crypt on the last character to gain piety with the Shining One, but that's not an issue here. And the crypt is much easier than any of the other options yet undone, so that's where we're going to go. The crypt generally isn't too difficult. It's filled with undead. Most of them aren't too challenging, but you can get things like liches occasionally, and you do get quite a few skeletal warriors who can hit pretty hard, and also the last level can be quite a bit difficult, but nothing we can't handle. You can also get these things called what are they called? Curse toes, and they tend to summon things quite quickly, so they can be rather annoying. But we do have a spell called the Spell Undead, which works on undead creatures and damages them quite heavily, as you saw there. So it's going to be very helpful in clearing this area out. And we are going to fight a lot of zombies down here, and fortunately there isn't much food to be found down here either, so we're going to have to rely on our rations for the time being. And it looks like we already got another book from Sifmuna, Book of Ice. I'm sure we already have one of those, but whatever. Let's see. Lots of zombies down here, as you can probably expect. And we're going to be spending quite a lot of time killing them. And as you can see, they seem to remain dormant for quite a while as we approach them. It's because unlike the other character we were playing, we actually have a stealth rating, which is useful. So or monsters actually don't necessarily notice us right away. They might stand around for a while and remain dormant while we continue fighting them. Those are the skeletal warriors that we were fighting before with the dwarf, and they're about the same as before, except they don't have any sort of ranged attack, so we can pretty much wipe them out from a distance and not really be in much danger. Oh, that one does have. It looks like he found some stones, but stones aren't that helpful against us. There's quite a lot of skeletal warriors down here, actually. Looking at it, we do have to be a bit more careful with this character. The monsters here, we are not nearly as sturdy as the dwarf was, so a bit more caution is advised. Fortunately, we can, for the most part, defeat enemies from a distance without having to worry about getting into melee all that much, so while our defenses aren't nearly as good, they aren't called upon nearly as much or strained nearly as much as the dwarfs were. But one thing we are going to have trouble with is food down here. As you can see, we're already near starving. We've only cleared out a small corner of this first floor of the area, so we might have to make a few trips. Fortunately, we've already found we've already cleared the hive, so we have a whole bunch of honeycombs back in our stash as a result, which is handy. And all in all, this place shouldn't be too difficult for us. There's another place deeper in this area called the Tomb, which is a much more difficult version of this area, also filled with undead, but it's filled almost exclusively with mummies, and as well as a few other types of very dangerous enemies like sphinxes. And that place is much more dangerous than this one, but it also contains a rune, whereas this one only contains some treasure a treasure vault down at the bottom most level after you defeat most powerful enemies you can find down there. And we're also training necromancy as a result of this spell, because Dispel Undead is a necromancy spell, so that's what it trains. Spellcasting is now at 24. We want to get it to 27, and once that happens, we should be quite a bit more powerful. We can start diverting our points to other pursuits, like the actual spellcasting skills, as well as maybe some more defense, which would always be nice. Skeletal warriors are a great way to get powerful base weapons if you happen to need them and haven't found any good ones yet. Of course, we don't really care about base weapons that much. We just grabbed a good artifact weapon for the special bonuses that it gave. That's all we really care about. We can do a bit of melee with this character. Most weaker enemies we can fight just with our weapon and not have to worry about wasting mana on them. This is a combination of being actually fairly well trained with it, as well as also having a really good weapon and a really good artifact ring of slaying. I believe it was +6 base damage, which is pretty big, I have to say. And anyway, we're on the first level, so we head down to the next one, and it's going to be pretty much more of the same. Some of these areas can get pretty interesting, though. That's a cursed skull. These guys can be pretty irritating. I believe they summon a whole bunch of crap, so we're going to want to take care of him. Okay. And unfortunately, with that ability of Sikmuna, we're going to eat through our food rather quickly. So it looks like we are going to be making quite a few trips down here, because we won't be really finding much in terms of nutrition. It's quite unfortunate, but I'd rather make trips and eat through our food supply than be in any real danger, so that's okay. Okay. Skeletal warriors are worth quite a bit of XP, so I'm rather glad that we're able to fight lots of them. We've been playing this character for quite a while to get to this point. As you can see, we're already on turn about 120,000, and we've been playing him for 13 hours already. Though a lot of that is just me leaving the game on and idling, so it's not all straight up playing, which isn't too bad, I guess. But as you can see, the stealth, being stealth in this game is actually pretty handy. Lets us avoid a lot of enemies and fight them on our terms rather than on theirs, or rather as soon as we see them, which is always useful. And there's quite a lot of skeletal warriors. I don't recall there ever being quite this many, but that's not a problem. Necromancy is continuing to level up, which is good, but again we have it off because we'd rather train spellcasting. Is generally more useful for this kind of character. If you play a spellcasting character that focuses in on one particular spellcasting school, you might want to leave it on rather than turn them all off except for spellcasting. But for this character, we're going to turn all our schools off. We've left all our schools off until we train spellcasting up to its maximum. Then we'll start training the other skills. And Sikmuna has given us another gift because we're training necromancy so much. She likes it when you train your spellcasting schools. Not the spellcasting skill itself, but rather the adjacent schools. So, because we didn't have much in the way of necromancy before, now that we're using it a whole bunch, it's getting trained fairly quickly. And she appreciates that a lot, and is giving us lots of books. Of course, we don't really need any more books at this point. That's a guardian mummy. They're some of the kinds of mummies you'll find down in the floors below. The main problem with mummies is that they have this thing called a death curse, and what that does is it has a number of negative effects, the most potent of which is to damage your ability scores. And unfortunately, we don't have sustainabilities yet, so fighting mummies is going to be quite dangerous. And because you can sustain multiple ability damages in rapid succession, it isn't a good idea to kill lots of mummies at the same time. Fortunately, they were also generally pretty susceptible to fire. And it looks like this one rotted us as his curse. So we're going to have to drink a potion of... drink a potion of healing to get rid of that. That's one of the curses they can do. The reason why I dropped all our potions is because One of the other curses they do is to turn one of your potions into a potion of decay. So it's a good idea to drop them before you fight any mummies, and that way you don't lose your potions. And if it was that particular one, well, I guess you're all right. There's a vampire mage.